Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Tim Brown,
Hi, Casey here.
and we are talking about to rank or to bank. That is the question. Should we try to explain this thumbnail? Because I feel like people are like, what?
Yes.
What was this? What is this thumbnail?
So these little ponds down here are intentional SEO content to build and rank on Google. And here is the king and the queen that want to overtake the ponds. But really we want to focus on the little guys because they matter just as much.
Basically, what we think about is like when people are like, why isn't every piece of content that we put out like making us money? It's like basically asking your pawns to win the game of chess for you. Because yes, you need to use these to advance the cause, but they're not going to necessarily win the game all the time.
Right.
All right, so we're talking about creating content for different things. Search authority and traffic is kind of on one hand, the pawns.
Yep.
And then on the other hand, revenue, which everyone thinks about. They're like, well, I think it's partly because we talk about leads so much.
Yes.
We talk about leads in our marketing, and so the conversations that we are having are always around leads.
So the lead is the big win.
Yeah.
So when you get that king in checkmate,
Yeah.
win the game, that's getting a lead. But everything going up to that point is the pawns. You're playing the game, you're doing the work. It's all the background stuff that really matters. That makes the game play.
So we kind of like, this is an intentionally provocative question, but which comes first, rankings or leads? Now, when we're talking about cold leads from the internet, somebody that's never met you, because you could get leads before you get rankings because it's like a referral.
Sure.
But in general, cold leads off the internet, what do you got to do? You got to rank first.
Yep, they need that backbone first, the rankings.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, we've got the first thing. Our first point is, I'll let you take this.
Yeah, so basically what we do here is we do a very intentional focus on keywords and traffic increase before we're actually going to get you the things that make you money, because you need to have that ramp up and build that authoritative content on your website and on Google before you're ever going to see that true revenue starting to come in.
And I think about it, there's two paths. One, which is just the two graphs. One is the low traffic, and you think if you just go after stuff that would get you leads, like let's say, a list of the best service providers in your area, you could give reviews of alternative providers.
Yep.
You could just do the landing pages for your city plus your service. Just do those things. It's a low graph, and then maybe from my point of view, it's like a year and a half before you get any leads.
Yep.
But you only focused on the exact perfect traffic. Yep. Otherwise, you can crank open the top of that sales funnel and do all of those questions that people ask in the sales process that aren't necessarily going to lead to a sale, but they get you traffic, and thus they make the next part of ranking your website worth it. And part of it is, a lot of marketers out there on the internet basically preach against doing this kind of content.
Yes.
And that, honestly, that makes our job easier.
Yep. So for example, like you said, the competitors' posts, some business owners might feel uncomfortable mentioning other competitors, but those top 10 lists, when you're including yourself in that, not only does that kind of humble yourselves, but you're not really selling you're not selling your own business to those other companies. You're just showing up now at Google as somebody who's sharing and giving information to customers who are struggling in that search to find the best contractor, for example. Mm-hmm. So that stuff has to be there. And
why aren't we competitors doing that though?
They're scared.
I mean, it's okay. Yeah, exactly. They're scared. Yeah. It's an alpha move a little bit to include competitors in your list on your website. Alpha move.
Yep.
And also, you don't have to convince them. I saw a good quote the other day that said, "Bees don't explain to flies why honey is better than shit."
Correct.
Think about that for a little bit. Bees don't have to explain to flies.
Next. So this is kind of piggybacking off of what I was talking about with laying that groundwork for content that isn't necessarily, saying, here's exactly our 10-step process of replacing your roof. it's everything supporting your industry. So for example, we have a client who is a property management company and has apartments, but we've written things for best speakeasies in Minneapolis, best prefix menus in Minneapolis, and they're ranking the third or fourth result on Google. And that's not necessarily directly related to their business, but it's kind of essentially all in the same wheelhouse. You live in Minneapolis, you want an apartment in Minneapolis and St. Paul, you're going to want entertainment in the area. So that those posts are helping them rank higher on Google, because there's also links in there to all these restaurants, and it's just expanding that web across Google
and,
website.
And it gets inbound links too, because you've got if you are able to like for instance statistics posts. We do statistics posts or writers resources all the time, and they naturally get links back to that website. Like it happens all the time. And then if you're ranking, let's say, and you have a list of restaurants and that really ranks on the top of Google, and let's say it's like got 5,000 people looking for that a month, then the internal links that you're sending out to pages, other pages on your website from that become more powerful. So
Exactly.
internal links are really, really powerful in SEO. So that's something to think about as well. Right.
Cool. So this is kind of, I maybe got a little ahead of this one, but this is kind of that same thing, bringing awareness to your brand that isn't necessarily there to convert. Those side topics, those anything that is circulated around your brand and your industry, they're not gonna convert immediately, but it's putting a magnifying glass on your company. It's showing people out there searching for relevant things that you exist, you're there, you are building that authority on Google. You know, they're looking for an authoritative source for what they're looking for. So if you can show up as that with your brand, that can lead to conversions eventually down the road.
So what I will throw out here is, this is the primary reason that a lot of people say to do this content if they suggest it at all. I think the other points are also extremely, you should consider them. I also want to open this up. If anyone has anything to add, comment below. Please like the video. And if you have any questions, we've done a lot of content for a lot of different companies. We've experienced the woes, the heartache, the triumph of doing content for different companies. We'd love to share our failures, and we'd love to share some of those successes. So if you've got any questions, throw them out there. Content is hard. What's one of the hardest parts about content marketing for different companies?
I would say, particularly for companies that choose to hire an SEO agency, it's kind of passing that baton to somebody else who isn't in your company, but is going to be writing on your behalf.
And kind of loosening up a little bit.
Yes,
right?
exactly. Relinquishing control, trusting that agency to write these things when, for example, I'm a writer, I'm not a subject matter expert, but over time I will become one. And I am a subject matter expert in SEO content. So I know what I'm doing from that side.
Yeah.
So
and you can do a lot of research.
Exactly.
Per
Tons
piece.
of research.
And that's the thing is like, what is better? A writer that can dedicate a full day to researching roofing materials and actually writing a giant guide about it, or somebody that's trying to write it in 1 hour in their off time because they're actually supposed to be doing administrative tasks. So the dedication to that craft is what can make you better, and curating the best information. And certainly around home services and contractors, we've gotten a lot of subject matter expertise just kind of starts to accrue accidentally almost.
Yes, and I also feel like having someone with an outside perspective for writing this, brand awareness content is completely different from somebody internally too close to the fire a little bit. Their perspective is going to be so much different. I can write a little more selflessly, I guess, about your
That's right, because people internally, we see people's content all the time, and it's not always, sometimes it's done very well, but sometimes when a company is doing the content themselves, they accidentally get a little pitchy.
Yes.
They pitch too much. Like in sales, we call that commission breath, and content, I don't know if there's a word for it, but just too overzealous on selling. Like content is best. Frankly, we're not going to pitch at all on this piece of this is content, right? We're making content now. We're not going to pitch once. We're just literally focused on trying to share our experience with content marketing
Yep.
and give you some reasons why you should be doing non-sales content.
Yep. And I've seen the phrase before, perfection is an excuse. If you're trying to make it too perfect and too specific to your brand, you're missing out on a lot more broad materials and expansion for your brand awareness.
Let's be as generous as we possibly can. Let's share some failures of our own experiences in content marketing. What do you got? Like from my point of view, one of the things that's been a failure for us has been difficult and things I've seen is like doing too detailed, like a company whose offering is so nuanced that it's almost like we'll never be able to provide value for them. And I do think it can be an excuse a little bit sometimes. I think it's probably more likely an excuse, but at the same time, there are some industries that are so nuanced that really only a subject matter expert should be writing about that topic. And that's very difficult. So that's a good reason why, it's one of the reasons why we decided to niche, to be honest.
Yep, but also in those situations, that's where we can slip more of the linking content and topical relevant content in there to help enforce the nuanced
curated lists, finding ways. I think that's really what it comes down to with content marketing. Especially if you don't have the subject matter expert, it's like how to get a subject matter expert to spend time with you is very difficult. Sometimes it comes down to what kinds of content can we do that's still valuable, like those curated lists or curating other people's tips or finding ways to do that still. I think that's a very valuable skill to be able to come from different areas and pull it all together and make something that's curated for a particular subject that didn't exist before. So try, I think it's like a little bit, like every once in a while I've said, like, I feel like I'm having an existential crisis because we're trying to do content for 10 different industries. And it's like, who am I? Who are we to write this content? But then when it comes down to it, if we put in work to do research and we actually try to create something that didn't exist before that's useful, that we would want using the golden rule, then you can't go wrong with your content. And I think so much of the content that we put out, even as an SEO company, hot take, there is such a thing as SEO content because we make it. I know people like to say, there's no such thing as SEO content. Yeah, there is, man. You think it's the same as like your white paper that you put out every 6 months that has crazy in-depth research? No, not everything is like that. So anyways, the point is golden rule, we can still provide significant amounts of value even within SEO content, even within something that's curated, even within something that took a data research, not a month.
Totally.
Last thing.
All right. Yes. Let's shift a little bit away from the blog piece and talk a little bit more about landing pages. We do a lot of location landing pages. Those are what help rank your site, and they're not exactly front facing like a blog would be, but they're directly going to customers who their problem right now is finding a local contractor. I just keep using contractors as an example. It's a good example. But
this thing is called Contractor Marketing Live.
Well, perfect.
But we have a lot of people on LinkedIn. I really hope you guys have some questions for us at the end. So please bring them.
Yep. So these landing pages are directed to, so say somebody goes to Google and they're like, I need a good contractor near me. And they're just typing near me. They maybe put the city too. But these contractors are servicing 15 different cities around their actual location. And these landing pages start to culminate behind that and lift up the rankings because people are looking specifically for Woodbury contractor.
Yeah. And that a great example of we're literally ranking on first page for roofing materials for a client out of La Crosse, Wisconsin. And he doesn't necessarily need to get that traffic, but what it does is when people are searching La Crosse roofing and he's in those first couple slots, you've got this topical relevance on these other pages buoys those pages. So just because it's not going to convert, and this is just a reiteration of earlier in the thing, just because it's not going to convert does not mean it's not going to buoy your other selling pages. I call that osmosis, like SEO osmosis. but you can call it whatever you want.
I also like to always think that if somebody was doing paid advertising and paid marketing efforts, if they stopped doing that, all of this relevant topical content is still growing.
Mhm.
It's still laying there. It's kind of growing a little bit. It doesn't go away.
Yeah.
It's
sometimes it lays
intentional.
dormant. Like we've had clients, and I don't want to like full NDA or whatever. We don't actually have that many NDAs. So I don't know. But you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not gonna try to like blow. But we had people like leave after 6 months. We had a couple people leave at the beginning of COVID. And then we checked it 6 months later, and the work that we had done from those first 66 months blew up. Because this stuff, some of this stuff, it's not clear what it's going to do until a little ways down the road. And I feel like on LinkedIn, we're talking to just a bunch of other marketers half the time and marketing managers, etc. So you know what I'm talking about. You've seen this. And it's basically trust yourself and move forward confidently with that content, knowing that it takes time. And knowing that not every piece of content will blow up.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's 1 out of 10 pieces of content. But you got to do 30 pieces of content just to get those 3 that really blow up and really increase the authority of your website long term.
Yep. Totally.
And once you do get that authority, everything's easier in the future. Like when you put out a new landing page, it ranks quicker. Yep. Once you do get the Google kind of momentum going, the authority, stuff just ranks higher in general. On average. So to review,
not every piece of content is meant to convert. Look at that.
A mix of conversion focused content and higher funnel content, higher in the sales funnel, earlier in the process of making a purchase decision, will give your site a higher topical authority. What do you want?
Topical authority.
That'll really get the crowd. Yeah, you want leads. But I'm telling you, topical authority will help you get there.
Yeah.
But if we could just really get the crowd chanting, what do you want? Topical authority. I'd be really excited. I wish there was a group, what do you want? Topical authority. Yeah, I'm running into battle with that battle cry. I know you guys are so excited. It's all right. We're nerds. Let us handle your nerd stuff for you. We appreciate your time. All right, thanks everyone. Did we get any questions? No questions?
No questions. We got a comment about your bees and flies comment.
Yes.
And just saying, just quoting it basically. And someone else said, I've won chess with pawns.
Yes, exactly. So back to the pawn. Let's go back to the thing real quick. So what did we learn here? We got the pawns, which are that topical authority content, not always meant to get leads, but helps you get general traffic and inflow and your website to breathe on Google. And then the queen and the king have an easier time winning and getting leads.
Yep.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much.